and in key bus transfer centers. Notice was also made online and sent to all jurisdictions within the Metro Compact area and to area libraries. We are looking forward to hearing from everyone who joined us this evening to provide testimony. Before we take testimony, we have a brief presentation from Mr. Cafriera that provides details on the proposal for Metro's proposed Better Bus Network redesign. Sir, take it away.
Thank you, Board Member Martin Proctor, and welcome everybody. Appreciate you all joining us. The first point I wanted to address, we had a lot of questions about why are we redesigning the bus network and why now? Buses are a key part of transportation in the Washington region. We, if anything, recognize that even more during the pandemic and after the pandemic as bus ridership has come back, and now partly we believe due to some of the changes we've made in increasing frequency on two routes is now higher than it was before the pandemic and continues to grow. Our region as a whole continues to grow as well. And what we're seeing is that people's travel patterns have been changing. They've been changing over time. Many of our bus routes date back to streetcar routes that were there many, many years ago, and may very well still need to be there. But there are other developments and needs that we want to make sure that we are serving so that we can continue to grow bus ridership. We also are working to prioritize the customer experience on the bus network, trying to move buses faster through the region, given all the traffic congestion out there. And we're also mindful that we need to make sure we're using the public's limited resources for transit as efficiently and wisely as possible. Next slide, please. So this project began a couple years ago in the fall of 2022. We started by having an extensive amount of public outreach, about 5 weeks of being out in public in various locations, as well as online, asking what people's concerns were about buses, what actually works for them, because we didn't want to take good things and embrace them, but we also wanted to know what was in fact needing to be addressed and fixed. We got over 6,000 comments with about almost 10,000 interactions with the public in that session. We used that to develop what we call the draft visionary network. This was a network that we did not constrain explicitly to our resources. As a region, we wanted to know what was the ultimate bus service that really was needed. We also didn't focus on who operated the bus, Metrobus or any of these local providers. It was really looking from a customer point of view what made sense and what was needed. We brought that out to the public about a year ago. Had 9 weeks of outreach, talked to over 20,000 people, got over 8,000 comments, and used that information to revise that visionary network, but also to use that as the basis for developing a network that we actually would be in a position to implement next year. So that network would be limited to start with the resources that we currently have available, both in fiscal year 24, which is about to end, and fiscal year 25, which is our next budget year. But it's trying to make a better network even without having significant resources. Doesn't mean we've given up on the need to continue to grow the network, but we want to start with something we can deliver. And that's what we're here to talk about today. We're in the middle of about 9 weeks of public outreach, including these public hearings on this proposal. We will again revise based on comments we're receiving, and we'll receive before the end of the comment period on July 15th. And we hope to bring a final proposal to the board in the fall for implementation beginning late spring or early summer of next year. Next slide. So what are we trying to achieve with the 2025 network? The first part of the streams that we're actually having the public hearing about today. But we want to build on some of the things we did. I mentioned before, we coming out of pandemic, in September of 2021, we introduced our constraint service network, where we have 36 routes throughout the region that operate either every 20 minutes or every 12 minutes, all day, 7 days a week. Often a major improvement on weekend service and off-peak service, where we've seen significant growth in ridership. So we want to build on that, have more consistent service throughout the week, which is one of the changing travel patterns we're seeing, that there's a lot more travel outside of the traditional rush hours, outside of the traditional going to the office kind of trips. We want to make sure we have good connections to job centers, to transit stations for other connections, hospitals, stores, schools, places where people need to travel, where they need to get to work. We're looking to make service more convenient when we can, more direct, less having bus routes divert in many twists and turns, and more direct service where we can, balancing, of course, with the need to actually get customers to where they want to go. We're trying to maximize our use of bus lanes and other bus priority that we've been working with all the jurisdictions to work to implement. So once bus lane and other transit priorities go in, we want to make sure that we are using them to the maximum extent possible. Lastly, we are looking at relabeling, renumbering all the buses in our network, which right now use 4 different systems that we inherited from private companies that merged into Metrobus over 50 years ago. So we think that while people know the buses they take, there's different systems and confusion about it really discourages new riders for people to explore outside of their home area. If we do all these changes, we're estimating we could get 13,000 more daily trips on a weekday, and of course, if we get those trips replacing auto trips, that will improve our air pollution and greenhouse gases as well. Next slide. Now, as I mentioned before, we don't want to stop here. We want to continue to grow towards the visionary network that we showed last year. In that visionary network, we would have no routes that were operating less frequently than every 30 minutes, and and many routes operating more frequently than that. We would have 30 additional routes connecting areas that right now are not connected, particularly between Metro Rail branches and new activity centers. We'd like to implement 24-hour bus service outside of the District of Columbia. We were very happy last year with funding from the district to be able to begin overnight service within the district, although we've certainly seen need for that outside the district, including through the region's airports. And we want to continue to work towards more consistent frequent service all day, every day. If we did all those, collectively, we would get even more riders to shift the bus, and that would further improve both people's access to jobs and activities, but also the environment. Next slide. So as I mentioned before, we are starting here with an assumption that we have the same resources that we currently have, but we want to work to deploy them better for our customers and be more smart about how we're doing that. We have spent a lot of time on updating the design of the service, where the routes go, the times they operate, and it's been built a lot on what we've heard from you and your fellow members of the public at our last round of outreach. So hopefully you're converging on the right approach here. But we've also used a lot of data, and on the right in the box, we get a lot of questions: what kind of data do you use? We certainly have our own ridership information and where our riders are today, but we also thought it important we look at what we call location-based data. This is basically data that we purchased from cell phone providers. It's anonymous, so we don't know who everybody is, but it allows us to see the travel patterns of people who are not taking bus or Metro Rail. We are also, I I mentioned before, doing this in partnership with the bus, which is the operator in Prince George's County, and with Prince George's County working on this. So we've gotten data from their system as well, and we have performance data, so we know where our reliability problems are, where our ridership is heavy, where it's not. We have projections of population and job now and into the future, and a number of other data points in the census, and a lot of comments from prior outreach. New to this round are 3 other items that were not included before. The first is bus stop consolidation, which we've largely focused on very frequent routes on main corridors and only on stops that are really close to each other, less than 600 feet, 600, 650 feet apart, to identify ones where there's a safe path to get to between the stops. We are very mindful that stops provide accessibility for people, but they also slow everyone down on the bus as the bus has a lot of traffic and when we're backing in. So it's trying to find that right balance. I mentioned before the new route names, and also this round, particularly in Maryland, we work closely with Ride-On in Montgomery County and the bus in Prince George's County, as we're all collectively doing bus network redesigns to look at which operator operates what route in a more logical sense. Next slide. Because this is money is a constraint here, we did have to make some trade-offs. So we couldn't do everything that was in the visionary, that is in our visionary concept. We generally try to lean into providing more consistent service levels throughout the day and throughout the week, because that was our most successful change that we've done in recent years. And it's also what our customers continuously tell us they need is frequency all day and throughout the week. Where we had to make some tough decisions, we particularly were looking towards prioritize service in what we call equity-focused communities, which are areas with a higher than average percentage of low-income residents or minority residents. And we also worked hard to straighten out some of the routes that wander back among themselves and try to be more direct for our riders while still maintaining access to neighborhood. The trade-off was we weren't always able to have as much frequency as we would have liked. In some cases, based on what current ridership is, we had some small reductions in the peak hours to allow us to have more frequency throughout the day. We did reduce service in some areas, proposing reduce service in some areas with very low ridership. And in some cases, customers will have to travel farther to reach a bus stop, either where we were consolidating stops, or in some cases, we combine service that are on 3 separate streets onto a single street to maintain a high frequency service. Next slide, please. So there are a number of ways you can find out more, and I'm sure since you're here today, you've already seen some of this, but if you want to learn more about the network, there are a number of opportunities online at WMATA/BetterBus, where we have what we call the Discovery Hub. It has state maps at the state level for DC, Virginia, and Maryland, route profiles for all of the routes that we're proposing, neighborhood profiles, so you can see how it all fits together within neighborhoods. We have descriptions of the new bus names. We'd encourage you, of course, your comments today are very welcome. But you can leave comments on the website itself that will also be incorporated into the record. And we encourage you to share that information with your friends, neighbors, colleagues. We'd like as many people to comment on this to learn about it as we can. So with that, I would turn it back to Board Member Lauren Proctor for the next slide.
Thank you, Mr. Cafiera. This is definitely a visionary process, and we appreciate your leadership in this project. Thank you so much for the presentation. Before we call witnesses, I'd like to explain the testimony process this afternoon. For this hearing, we have people joining us via phone and via video. If you're joining us via video, please keep your camera off and mute your microphone until I call on you. If you're listening on the phone, you can press *5 to raise your hand to indicate you want to speak. We'll call on you using the last 4 digits of your telephone number when it's your turn to speak. If you're watching this hearing live and decide you want to provide testimony, you can call us at 206-899-2028. After calling in, enter meeting code 164-729-013. Once you're in the meeting, you can press *5, which will let us know you want to speak. We'll call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number when it's your turn. You can watch the hearing live online at YouTube/Metro Forward, and the video will be archived on the Metro Forward YouTube channel. If you're watching the live hearing on a different device, please make sure to mute the device so that there isn't any feedback. You'll be available to listen to the hearing while you wait in the phone queue. For the public record to accurately reflect who's providing testimony, I ask that you please state your name and any organization you represent before beginning your testimony. Since this hearing is being recorded and will be available on YouTube, please do not provide any personal information like your address, phone number, or email in your testimony. Elected public officials will be allowed 5 minutes and everyone else will be allowed 3 minutes each. Extra time will be given for transition as needed. We ask that you stay within your time limit because we want to make sure everyone who wants to speak has a chance to be heard. I also want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining us during this call. While you may have the option to rejoin the speaker's queue, we cannot accept additional testimony at this hearing, so everybody only gets the opportunity to speak once. I want to take a moment to recognize that this is where we are here to listen to you. This is your opportunity to comment on the proposal, and we're here to listen. We will not be able to answer questions during your testimony. Detailed information is always available online at betterbus.wamata.com. Your comments will become part of the public record that will be reviewed by the Metro Board of Directors. Changes to the options presented here this afternoon may be proposed in response to testimony received and subsequent staff analysis. And now it's time to call the first witness. As a reminder, please tell us your name and any organization you represent before you start speaking.
Thank you, Camilla. And actually, I do want to make one verification. There was a typo in your notes, which is on me. For those who are watching the video and would like to participate, the conference ID, I'm just going to repeat that, is 787-960-816. Press pound at the end. Again, I'll repeat the ID for this conference call, 787-960-816 pound. And for those who are about to provide testimony, if you could please speak slowly, well, not slowly, do not rush through your presentation, your testimony, as we have ASL interpreters on the call. And if you're rushing through it, it's very hard for them to keep up. So thank you so much. I'm calling the first speaker, Simone.
Okay, I would like to share my screen. Is that possible?
Let me stop sharing the timer, Mr. Simone, and then I think you should be able to. Give me just one moment. Okay, there should be a share button in the upper right-hand corner.
Don't know how to get the thing I want to share to show. Window. Oh my God, 732 windows. Yikes. I have no idea which one. Well, maybe I can't do it. Because I have no idea which one of these is wants to share. Showing 732 windows, which is not the number of windows I have open. Sorry, obviously this is a technical thing. How do I find this window? I'm going to take a guess. No, I'm not.
Mr. Simone, we'll come back to you. We'll give you time if you can go ahead and turn off your camera, but it also looks like you're frozen. We'll go to David White. And Mr. Simone, if you can go ahead and turn off your camera, and we'll come back to you.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity. My name's David White, and I am a resident on Cathedral Avenue Northwest, and I just wanted to talk about the C85 proposed bus line, the C85. My neighbors and I feel like it will adversely affect hundreds of people here along Cathedral Avenue, specifically from the blocks 3800 through 4300. And the route of the C85 going north from Cathedral onto 39th Street will endanger, we think, children arriving and departing from the elementary school, the Annunciation Elementary School. We are in the process of collecting names and sign-offs from residents in the many, many buildings in our neighborhood, specifically the Marlin Condominium, Idaho Terrace, which is at 3051 Idaho, the Warwick, which is at 305, also 3051, it's actually across the street, Idaho, and the Westchester buildings, which are across the street. All of us depend on the buses to go to work and for employees of our buildings to come into our area every day. We also use the buses on a regular basis to go to doctor appointments and such. And the proposed frequency of the C85 is just unacceptable. So we are vigorously opposing the C85 bus route as proposed. And we would like to have the N2, the N4, and the N6 lines preserved as they are now. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Mr. Simone, are you ready for your presentation or for your testimony, or do you want me to come back to you?
Go. I just won't be able to share the screen. My name is Cal Simone. I am been a long-term resident of Ward 3 in Rock Creek West, Chevy Chase. I'm a co-chair now of the ANC 34G Transportation Committee and a member of its bus transit working group. I've been riding the buses since 1961 when I was 10 years old when the buses were operated by DC Transit. My first comment is a general one. It seems like your plan is to get people, mainly to get people to and from metro stations, as if the buses are mainly there to serve the rail system. However, this does not take into account the many people who take their trips using buses only. Now, for my comments pertaining to particular road routes, and I'm going to lean heavily on the E4. Still seems, even despite a lot of feedback from last year, you still want to move the service off of McKinley Street east of Connecticut Avenue to Military Road. A number of residents don't like the idea of buses making a turn at the intersection of Connecticut and McKinley, which would make the intersection more dangerous for pedestrians. And so for multiple reasons, please do not eliminate McKinley Street service east of Connecticut Avenue. I have ideas for alternate routings that would avoid 30th Place if that's the issue, but still maintain the current service on McKinley. Also, you propose to eliminate the stops along McKinley Street. The 600-foot spacing between stops ought not to be a blanket rule that applies to every situation. Chevy Chase has an inordinately high proportion of seniors, many of whom have to get to medical appointments in Friendship Heights. There are several buildings, tall buildings with lots of medical offices. So having a bus stop at the corners they're at makes sense. And the buses have to stop at the stop signs anyway. So I can't imagine that it could add more than a minute or two. And one of my suggestions is to run a community bus line that meanders through the streets of Chevy Chase, Barnaby Woods, and Hawthorne, not just a main street like Military Road or Western Avenue. That would take us to our Civic Core area on Connecticut and McKinley and the Friendship Heights Metro. The other one I want to talk about is the L8. Right in the proposed plan, there would be no easy way to get from the district to Kensington and Wheaton. In the proposed plan, it would involve 3 buses, possibly including a transfer of Connecticut Avenue and East-West Highway, not the safest place to cross, and lengthen the trip from to more than an hour one way, if you happen to live close enough to Military Road instead of McKinley Street. The M4, there's no service down Nebraska Avenue. Well, that doesn't apply anymore. Okay, last thing is Ride-On's plan does not appear to have been updating to reflect your latest plan. They still show last year's visionary scheme with the routing and numbering scheme in last year's plan. And I just hope that y'all become more responsive to the details, because the devils are in the details, unlike many transit systems around the country who go through painstaking measures to try to integrate the feedback they get. I'll stop there, and thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Great, thank you. We'll go to our next speaker. Now we're going back in order. Mr. Litt, you can go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mike Litt. I am a car-free Metro rider and the chair of the Sierra Club DC Chapter's Sustainable Transportation Committee. We commend WMATA's commitment to a more frequent, well-connected, and faster bus service, which is critical to having a climate-smart and healthy transportation system here in the DMV. The proposed network, which uses existing resources, is a good step in that direction. Ultimately, dedicated funding will be needed to operate Metro, implement the visionary network after the proposed network, and expand on the visionary network to fully meet the needs of our region. I'll recap our recommendations, which are detailed in my written testimony, starting with high-frequency service. Metro is continuing to move in the right direction with service improvements by planning to eventually provide at least 30-minute frequency throughout the day for most routes. As Move DC explains, transit's usefulness and attractiveness to the public is determined by high-frequency service, defined as no more than a 5-minute wait for rail and no more than 10 minutes for buses. This tracks with WMATA's Better Bus Network survey, which found that shorter wait times and on-time arrivals are among the most important factors for current and potential customers. Sierra Club therefore encourages Metro to work towards system-wide high-frequency service. Frequency is also a matter of equity. For example, according to the DOE's Keep Cool DC story map, some populations, like people of color and households with limited English proficiency, suffer more impacts of heat than others. Higher frequency bus service is an important way to mitigate heat exposure and those impacts. Next, we found potential discrepancies in recent and past materials that suggest The projected increases in trips and cuts to GHG emissions with the visionary network might have changed since last year. We therefore seek clarification on those projections. I've detailed the potential discrepancies in my written testimony. And finally, coupled with reducing vehicle miles traveled, it is also essential that improved service on the Better Bus network is delivered by zero-emission electric buses in order to comply with DC's climate law, meet WMATA's own sustainability goals, and improve air quality for district residents. We applaud your progress in the past year toward transitioning to a zero-emission bus fleet and urge WMATA to move more rapidly to electrify its bus fleet. We look forward to continuing to work with y'all so that Metro can keep serving as the arteries of the region with sustainable, equitable public transportation in the district, taking on a greater share of the trips that people make every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, ANC Commissioner James Nash. So John, if you can flip the other
Can you hear me?
Yes, give me 1 second. We're going to flip to the other
Yes.
timer because you get 5 minutes as elected. So give us 1 second. When you see the timer up, we will proceed. Okay, you can begin.
Okay. Do I have to turn my camera on, or what? How does that
If
work?
you choose to.
Okay, I don't even see where it is.
Okay, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, good afternoon. My name is James Nash, and I am the commissioner for ANC 34G, Single Member District 3. And thank you for allowing me to testify today. And I come before you speaking for myself and for the Bus Transit Working Group of our ANC's Transportation Committee. This evening, our ANC will take up a resolution that goes along with most of my testimony before you today. And I believe our ANC will approve this resolution, but because they have not yet done so, I want to say that I am right now speaking for myself and our Transportation Committee's working group. Okay, well, we reject WMATA's Better Bus changes to our bus service in the strongest possible terms, and here is why. Our ANC is already a bus desert. WMATA killed the E6 without ever holding hearings on the matter or officially declaring the line as dead. And this was wrong, both procedurally and substantively. Our ANC has passed numerous resolutions demanding the return of the E6. WMATA has ignored our resolutions, has not responded to them, and it continues to ignore us to this day. The E6 is not even mentioned in the so-called Better Bus Plan. The consequence of losing the E6 was to leave large parts of our ANC without bus service, especially on weekends. The E6 served Hawthorne and Barnaby Woods. The M4 is only a partial replacement. Our ANC is without metro service. Therefore, we are totally dependent on bus service for our public transit. Large areas in the north and east of our ANC have little or no bus service. And what is so unacceptable about WMATA's Better Bus Plan is that it would expand this bus desert in both space and time. It would expand the bus desert in space because it would move the E4 C83 4 blocks farther south to Military. Now, not only the northern and eastern parts of our ANC are without bus service, but the central part as well. The C83 would run along Connecticut Avenue, but Connecticut Avenue already has bus service. So to those who have, more will be given, and to those who have not, even the little they have will be taken away, to quote the Bible. Residents in the heart of Chevy Chase and Barnaby Woods would no longer have direct access to the Civic Corps Friendship Heights to go to their public library, community center. And by the way, do you know, WMATA, are you living in a shoebox? The city is spending millions to build us a new library and a new community center, and you're taking away our access to get there by public transit. That makes no sense to me at all. Moreover, we learned from our neighbors when we asked for community feedback on this plan that the new C83 route will create 2 new dangerous left turns on Connecticut Avenue, one at McKinley and one at Military. And finally, I'm running out of time because 5 minutes is not enough for me to tell you all that's wrong with Better Bus for our area. But you're going to expand the bus desert in time as well, because now you're going to eliminate the E4 weekend service. So this means the only people with weekend service in our entire ANC that has no metro, the only place you can get weekend service will be along Connecticut Avenue. And that is just unacceptable. And I want to challenge the people wearing the green visors who look only at ridership. We pay taxes here, and it is taxes that support bus service. And you are antagonizing us because, you know, now the next time there's a hearing and your budget's up on the chopping block, maybe some of our people are going to say, sure, cut WMATA spending. You've cut our bus service. Why should we pay taxes for bus service that we no longer get? Okay? So stop it. Stop cutting our bus service and give us back the E6. This is not better for us.
Thank you so much. You can go ahead and mute and turn off your camera. Thank you. So I'm going to go to the phone line. We have one phone participant that has raised their hand and they've been on hold for a minute. So I'm going to unmute a caller with the last 4 digits, 7111. When I unmute you, if you can please provide your first and last name and your jurisdiction, and you can begin your testimony, and then we'll let you know when your time is up. Thank you. And I'm unmuting you. Actually, I believe you are self-muted. Caller 7111, can you unmute yourself? Okay, then we'll go back to the regular list. We're going to go with Miss Roxanne Wallace.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Roxanne Wallace, and I am a long-term resident of the Bloomingdale neighborhood in the district. I am also a regular bus rider using the G2 and G8 lines on a daily basis. Within the past 2 weeks, I have learned of the proposed C55 route within WMATA's Better Bus Network plan. I do not support this routing down First Street Northwest. As a resident who lives on First Street, I am immensely familiar with the challenges of my street, and a bus route would further complicate this situation. My street happens to be a popular commuting route to 395. We have our own rush hour traffic, both AM and PM. First Street also happens to be the main pedestrian thoroughfare of Bloomingdale. A large number of young families with strollers and many dog walkers traverse and cross back and forth on First Street every day. As long as I have been a resident, we have fought for traffic calming measures on our street. Besides complicating our traffic situation, I see the addition of a bus line as a safety concern too. First Street is not a street meant for buses. The G2, G8, and 80 lines, just 1 block away on North Capitol, have served our neighborhood adequately. I would ask WMATA to preserve these routes as much as possible, not bring a new unwanted line through the neighborhood. And I would also let you know that the Blooming Civic Association unanimously voted no support of this plan just last week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go back to the phone caller, 7111. If you can unmute yourself. Caller, are you there?
if you're listening on the phone and would like to unmute yourself, you can press *6.
Thank you, John.
Now?
Yes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. You can go ahead.
Okay, my name's Dale Brown. I'm in the Cathedral Heights area, and I wanted to call about the N2, N4, and N6, presently to become the D96. And basically what this does is completely isolate our area. We will have no bus service. I moved here where I live, so I would be near several bus routes, the N2 and the N4, which is 4 blocks away. Currently, I'll be honest, it is very hard using buses rather than driving, but it's totally possible. Currently, I'm able to get to Friendship Heights, where my medical appointments are, to DuPont Circle, where much of my social life is. I can get pretty much everywhere using the N2 and N6, even though I have to wait a while. With the new service, I'll have to walk several blocks, and it appears to be as frequent or less frequent, I kind of couldn't figure it out, than the current 30 line. So I would have to say that, number one, you're isolating our area and causing it to have no buses. And I also want to point out that we have several apartment buildings, the Westchester, the Towers, the Idaho Avenue one, the Cathedral Moors. There's around 6 big apartments, all of which are filled with seniors who use the bus. So that's my basic point. The other point I would like to raise involves people who I know who are struggling with whether or not to give up driving. One point I never hear raised in this entire discussion is the many people who have to decide when to give up their car keys. Well, you know what? You can't give up your car keys if there is no other alternative to driving. Right now, I believe our road service is compromised by the very poor public transit access currently in D.C., which the better bus network appears to be making worse. So my basic point is, number one, please, we want our N2, N4, and N6, or a bus service in this area. And number two, to think about the impact of public transit on traffic safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. We're going to go next back to our regular list, Ms. Cindy Axne.
Hi, my name is Cindy Axne. I live in Capitol Hill East, pretty close to Stadium Armory. I don't know the names of the new buses, so bear with me as I call them B2 and 96. Just so you know, the city has increased the frequency of and started overnight bus routes running through our residential street, which is a very small 4-block section between East Capitol and Independence, or East Capitol and Massachusetts, depending on the bus. They remove it from 17th Street and run it down 1 block to get to Stadium Armory. And so that's what we're dealing with here. And so what's happened is that through your new approach, you've increased these to overnight bus routes and increased the numbers of buses. Even though there are a limited amount of people getting on and off the buses from our neighborhood, most folks are using it as a jumping off point for Stadium Armory. The bus priority plan corridor analysis states our area is not a top 10 corridor, nor a top 20 segment of the bus priority plan. However, WMATA massively increased the number of buses coming through at all times. The 96 route bus increased to 4 times per hour and runs till 2:30 in the morning. The B2 increased by 17% to 112 buses per day during the week, and by 22% to over 100 buses running on Sundays. The B2 now goes by every 5.45 minutes. I'm sorry, the B2 and the 96 combined go by now every 4.5 minutes, folks. There are some times during the day when the B2 goes 7 times per hour and the 96 comes by 4 times. That's 11 buses per hour driving by our homes. Our neighbors and us can no longer sleep because the buses are waking us up at night. We are woken up. We have a neighbor whose girlfriend no longer comes over, his long-term girlfriend, because she can't sleep here. Our next door neighbor puts cotton balls in and she gets woken up overnight. I've now started to get high blood pressure as a result of this, which is a determination by being woken up multiple times over, and it affects menopausal women more greatly. So what's happening here is we've got these buses that have now increased. They're running 24/7. They're running in some cases almost every 5 minutes, and yet the DDOT and WMATA's policies don't align. You're running down 18th Street Southeast with speed humps, and that's what's causing massive amounts of noise from your compressed natural gas Excelsior XN40 buses that make a unique penetrating sound when they're breaking over these speed humps. DDOT actually states that they will generate noise cushions when traversed by large trucks or buses by having those speed humps. And they say don't put them on bus routes, but you've increased the numbers of buses running down a street that shouldn't even have a bus route because of the speed humps. And now it's overnight, and with those compressed gases, goes off, wakes everybody up, and we have families whose children can't sleep. Everybody's losing sleep here because you essentially are using this small stretch of one residential street for the turnaround for 96 and for a tiny little stretch of 18th Street instead of keeping it on 17th Street. Basically, I think to put people slightly closer to Stadium Armory, but nobody's getting on the buses from this neighborhood for the most part. I take public transportation, so does my husband, so do all of our neighbors. It's just too much, and it's now causing health problems by waking us up overnight. I have tried to address this with city council members and with WMATA. Nobody is calling me back. I'm now starting to work through what should be our new council member. But this is now turning into a noise issue. The NIH has said that that is a health standard problem. And to be honest, you already have a city councilwoman going after this noise issues in other parts of the city. And we have these now because of WMATA here on the Capitol Hill East side.
Thank you. Our next speaker, and we hopefully I get this right, Adriana Radulescu.
Hello?
Yes, we can see and hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Adriana Radulescu. I live in Ward 3 in Glover Park, and I wanted to speak about the D2 soon or proposed to be combined into a D96, I believe. And the issue that we have here, and we had for many years since WMATA is working into taking any transportation from us, is that we are far away from metro. We're in a triangulation with DuPont Circle and Tenley Town. The only access into this neighborhood is by bus. And we had two buses, D2 and D1. D1 just disappeared during the pandemic without any fanfare or any notes. And now the D2, which is running a 20-minute run from DuPont Circle to the end of the neighborhood by the Stoddard Public School, is going to be combined in a route that goes from Department of State through DuPont Circle, through Friendship Heights, through everything to Bethesda Metro. So a 20 minutes ride is going to be a 90 minutes ride with a 20 to 30 minutes frequency. That means there is no bus. This is not public transportation. It's a joke. And one of the reasons WMATA had when they took off all the many 30 buses that were running on Wisconsin Avenue was that the routes were too long and they were not efficient, and we had to break them into 32 and 31 and this and that. Now you're taking a short route bus that is relatively efficient and all the neighborhood is using, and making it an enormously long line that makes everybody unhappy. So I would really please reconsider this because it's just stupid. And it's not more convenient, it's not more direct, and it's definitely more reliable. And my other point is the 33 and 31, which are running as they are running. They are not consistent. Now 31 is proposed to be taken out of this, and 33 supposedly increased. But 33 is not going anymore to the Federal Triangle. It's going to stop somewhere at Farragut Square. So you're shortening this line as well and doing us a big disservice. We're left with two buses, barely, the T2 will be completely useless to our neighborhood. So really, please look again at that map and listen to all the people who live along the route that are unhappy about what you're doing. Cathedral Heights and Barnabas Woods, whatever it's called. I don't even know these neighborhoods, and you want us to be all connected. So please listen to all the comments that were given to you, the ANC and our ward member, and reconsider this D2 situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we're going to go to the last speaker who is signed up to provide testimony by video, Mr. James Manning. You can go ahead and turn on your camera.
Good afternoon. My name is James Manning. I'm a district resident, and while it might be a little out of scope, I do want to bring up the issue of the trip planner because it has been highlighted in this process as a means for people to see where they can get from point A to point B during the new alignment of routes. I have put in multiple tickets or multiple requests to the customer service department, but the issue remains that when you put in a metro station and you put in Union Station Metro, that may get you the metro stop you want to begin your trip. But if you end up at another location or another metro stop that you're going to or from, the name configuration does not hold true for every single stop. So if you're on a mobile phone and you're trying to get from your bus to a metro station, you may be getting the neighborhood in which you're in. So whether it's Friendship Heights Station, you may get the neighborhood and you may be a 5-minute walk from the station. So if you're trying to get from your bus to the station and into the train and make the train on time, depending on the hour of the day, it can be very complicated and very frustrating. So I would ask that during this process, that the consultants or the team that is working to reconfigure this tool make sure that each and every naming convention holds true throughout each and every station, and the same for the bus bays, because those are uniquely identified in the trip planner depending on which bus bay you leave from or get on the bus from. It may seem small, but it makes a huge difference day after day after day when you're trying to take an efficient route and you happen to go to different routes on different occasions or on different days. And I know I did not say that very eloquently, but I appreciate your time and thank you.
Great, thank you. So that is the last of our list. Camilla, when you get to the part of your script where you provide the conference room IDs, pass it back to me so I can read out the correct one, because I think the ones on your notes that we provided are incorrect.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'm told that there is no one else that wants to provide comments, and that was our last speaker. This hearing is now concluded.
Hang on, Camilla. That was the last of the pre-registered. We have one that's on the phone that wants to provide comments.
Oh, absolutely. If there's anybody else that would like to provide comments at this time, please do make us aware.
Hi, this is Barbara Altman. Is it my opportunity to share?
Yes, can you repeat your name one more time?
Barbara Altman.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm calling about the N buses, N2, 4, and 6. We only learned in my building that the proposal is to eliminate those buses, that there would be no bus on Cathedral Avenue in this very densely populated area. And there are a lot of elderly people here. There are a lot of people who work in this neighborhood. They will have no transportation. I don't understand what the thinking is, but I certainly hope this will be reconsidered. It would affect this entire community. People would be left without transportation that need transportation. And it's inconceivable to me, and we only just learned about it. So it's really causing a lot of distress.
Thank you.
So I hope it will be reconsidered. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more. I have caller ending in, oh, they just lowered their hand. Okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to provide comments? This is your time that's on the phone. Okay, we have caller ending in 8436. You can go ahead, please unmute yourself. Eight, 436, if you can unmute yourself.
You can unmute yourself by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you to the board for hearing our comments. My name is Andrew Bear. I'm a resident of ANC 4E02, and I'd like to speak on the proposal for Route D74, which goes crosstown across Upshur Street to Brookland. In the original proposal, the route was to start at Rhode Island Avenue and continue up over, up across Taylor Street, up 2nd Street, across Upshur Street to continue on to 14th Street and terminate at the Colorado Terminal. The redesign has it going down Georgia Avenue into Columbia Heights and to downtown across many served corridors. I feel like this is a missed opportunity to serve the transit-starved areas of Uptown Petworth and 16th Street Heights, who currently have excellent north-south transit, but little east-west transit apart from driving across Rock Creek Parkway or traveling down to Columbia Heights to take the Irving Street crosstown. I hope this proposal will be reconsidered to provide more east-west transit to Uptown residents, especially along the growing corridor of Uptown 14th Street, which has got a zoning reapproval, so we'll be seeing a lot of development there in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Bear, before you go, could you just spell your last name for us?
Yeah, B-A-E-R.
Thank you.
And for anyone else on the call, if you wish to provide testimony for those who are on the phone, press *5. Caller ending in 3379. And *6 to unmute yourself.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, this is Greg Fuller from ANC 5E in Bloomingdale. I'd like to submit comments about Route C55. It's newly proposing a bus route on 1st Street Northwest between Bryant Street and Rhode Island Avenue. Many residents in the Bloomingdale community are outraged about this route for several reasons, including the lack of representation and knowledge shared with us by our community representatives. Further, this route is proposing 2 lanes of buses on 1st Street Northwest, which is not wide enough to handle those buses. The 1st Street also has a weight restriction that those buses would be in violation of. And we would like to very much have WMATA engage with the community at an upcoming July 8th meeting that the ANC has called specially in order to get better visibility to the residents of Bloomingdale about this new bus, given that there have not been any signage posted on 1st Street or explicit attempt to engage individuals that may not be aware of it. outside of the online activities that WMATA has posted. We believe that the bus on First Street poses safety concerns to the pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers in this neighborhood. We also believe that the bus is likely to cause damages to the homes on the street. And we also believe that the bus will have an adverse impact to the residents. We think that there are alternative options for increasing bus access to and around this community using roads that are already well equipped to service bus routes, including North Capitol Street Northwest, just one block over. That would also increase the connectivity of the Better Bus network, as there are north and southbound routes planned for and currently on North Capitol Street Northwest. Given that the C55 bus is one going to Tenleytown, you would really be able to traverse to multiple metro points as well as other bus access points if it was moved over one street to North Capitol Street as a suggestion without impeding the pedestrian, cyclists, or others in the neighborhood. Thank you.
And can you just repeat your name one more time?
Sure, Greg Fuller.
And then one last caller we have ending in 7539. Press *6 to unmute yourself.
This is Aurelia Glenn. I live in Prince George's County. And I was wondering about the change in the system, the numbering system for existing lines. I'm not sure how that's going to eliminate confusion, especially for lines. I mean, if a line's been a B2 forever, changing the name, I'm not sure how that's going to eliminate confusion. Looking on the list of proposed lines, I don't know. Seems like for bus lines that cross jurisdictions, if one goes to Prince George's County, into Alexandria, how do you choose which one which one starts with CD and which one starts with the other jurisdiction name? I just think that the changes in naming are not the changes that are needed in the bus service. We need better signage. The signs didn't work. On one bus this evening at the train station, Green Line train station, the bus sign said out of service. Of course, anyone catching that bus is going to be confused, but we're worried about changing the names for existing bus routes. Seems like an exercise in confusion to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Glenn.
As of now, I have no one else who have raised their hand. All that have registered already to provide video testimony have testified. I turn it back over to you, Ms. Martin Proctor.
Thank you, team. And as we close out our hearing this afternoon, just a few notes. All are welcome to submit additional written testimony. It must be provided by 5 p.m. on Monday, July 15th. Testimony can be submitted online at wmata.com/betterbus. Online, you have the option to comment using an interactive map complete a survey, write free-form comments, and upload a letter, petition, or any other document. You can also mail testimony to our office at the Office of the Secretary, WMATA, SECT, S-E-C-T, 2E, P.O. Box 44390, Washington, D.C., 20026-4390. Again, all testimony must be received no later than 5 p.m. on July 15th. We encourage everyone to submit comments online if possible. You also have the option to speak at the final in-person hearing that we'll be holding in Maryland this Wednesday. Information on how to register for the remaining hearings can be found at betterbus.ramada.com. If you're planning to attend or speak at the subsequent hearings, I'll note that individuals who haven't provided testimony prior to hearings on this docket will be given priority to speak. Thank you again for joining us and for taking the time to provide testimony. I would also like to thank WMATA's tech team, our ASL interpreters. Thank you so much, Jose, John, and Erica. They make this work. Without them, this would not have happened. And with that, I believe we have concluded today's hearing. Jose, is there anything, or John, is there anything that I have left off that we should wrap around?
So we actually advertised this hearing to last until 6 p.m. So we're going to stay on the line in case there are any callers between now and 6. It appears you're welcome to stay, or we're able to stay and take testimony. It does appear that there was somebody that had their hand raised, and I think now they're gone.
They already testified, but we did have 2 new callers that did log on. So for those that have just logged on, if you wish to provide testimony, press *5. Everyone else that provided testimony earlier via video, you're welcome to drop off. There will be no further presentation at this time since it was already given. So thank you so much for those that provided testimony virtually. I do have a hand up now. Caller ending in 5747. If you can please state your name and your jurisdiction. And if you press *6 to unmute yourself.
And team, yes, I will stay on the line and continue to hear testimony. And if anybody wants to provide additional written testimony, as we had previously stated.
Excellent. And caller 5747, you're free to provide testimony. Press *6 to unmute.
Hello. I don't know if that was my number, but given that nobody else was talking,
yeah, you can go ahead.
Yes. So yes, I'm Tony, and I live in Washington D.C. in the Bloomingdale neighborhood.
Tony, slow down, Tony. Tony, can you give us your first and last name? Thank you.
Yes, Tony Codinas from Bloomingdale, D.C. And I'm calling because I'm concerned about the C-55 proposed bus line that it's proposed to go along 1st Street Northwest from Rhode Island to Bryan Street. This is a street that we are already sharing it with like a pedestrian, cyclist, cars, delivery trucks. Adding a bus lane would not ease traffic. The traffic that we have in the street is mostly commuter traffic from outside of the neighborhood that passes through the neighborhood to go to 395 in the south. And this bus lane would not help ease traffic. It would just further congest the street, a street that is too narrow to accommodate wide buses in addition of all the other people using the street. So I would encourage WMATA to consider alternatives There is an obvious one, just one street on the east, North Capitol Street. It's a wide street, many lanes of traffic, and already equipped to have bus traffic. There are already bus lanes going on there. So that's my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go back to caller 5747. Press *6 to unmute yourself. Appears they have lowered the hand. And they raised it back up. 5747, you're free to speak. Caller 711, you've already provided testimony. Thank you.
Can I say
hello? I was muted.
hello? I know I already provided testimony.
Go ahead, 5747.
My name is Angela Prentice. I'm resident of Bloomingdale. I'm also calling to provide testimony with regard to the C55, proposed C55 bus route that would go from Bryant Street to Rhode Island. There are a number of issues that my neighbor Tony mentioned, but in addition, we're also experiencing damage now from a DC water project that recently concluded. My neighbors are having, I and my neighbors have doors that won't shut, cracks in walls, retaining walls in our homes. We're already fighting that battle. I have not seen anything that said the major tunnel that's going from Michigan to Rhode Island was designed to be able to handle the additional weight of the buses. That is my primary concern. I think our neighbors in general are concerned because there's no notification to residents, which is why we're trying to, like Tony before me, weigh in on the impacts of that now that we've recently been made aware. We have property damage, we have safety concerns, there's financial impact since we're already spending money to make repairs. There's a major sinkhole right here at First and V Street that we've been trying to get repaired that has not been. So the primary reason is that we don't feel that the bus information and we have enough time and information to analyze the impact, and from the impacts that we are aware of, it would be, we feel, fairly severe, given that we're already dealing with damage to the roadway. And thanks for taking my testimony.
And can you repeat your last name one more time?
Prentice, Prentice, not the publisher.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have no one else that's raised their hand. No one else has dived in. So we have to hang on until 6 o'clock. So we are going to, at the moment, just mute our cameras and mics. Again, for those that are remaining on the call, there will be no further presentation. So if you want to watch this, you can watch it on our YouTube channel, Metro Forward. Thank you. John, any final notes?
Nope.
Okay, so we're going to hang out until 6 o'clock. So if I see anyone dial in, I'll announce it.
I see that we have some folks that have joined us on the phone. If you want to provide testimony, please press *5.
Caller 9011, you may proceed.
Am I on right now?
Yes, please provide us your first and last name.
Okay, my name is Lola, Lola. My last name is Perez, Peres. And I live at 100 Bryant Street.
You don't have to provide us your address,
Northwest.
ma'am. Do not provide us your address.
Okay. I just joined because I got a message from a neighbor that she urgently encouraged me to join. Is the meeting in progress already? I don't want to be redundant.
No, if you want to provide your testimony, you're free to do so. Just do not provide us any personal information. You can tell us your neighborhood, but not your address or phone numbers, or your phone number's there, but just not your address.
Okay, well, my neighborhood is Bloomingdale, and my testimony is in reference to the route that's been assigned to the C55 bus that's creating a new route coming 2025. And I basically want to say how strongly we oppose this route, not just myself, but most of the neighbors on this route because of the nature of the neighborhood and the nature of the street. It's already challenged with a number of issues, and we were hard-pressed to understand how WMATA came to the conclusion that putting the bus from Rhode Island Avenue onto First Street and not onto North Capitol Street, which is a large street with room for the buses, we feel that it'll be very detrimental if they go through with putting it on First Street. We have issues with the trees, with the older houses being close to the road. We have bike riders, scooter riders in the street without bike lanes. We have pedestrians with children and pets. Buses 18 hours a day, every 30 minutes from 5 a.m. to midnight would just add more complications to an already challenging street. And we're hoping that WMATA gets enough input from residents like myself to reconsider the route and consider taking the bus from Rhode Island Avenue instead of making a left turn on First Street, making a left turn on North Capitol Street, and then making a left turn on Michigan Avenue going to 4th Street up to its final destination of W, because that route is really not close to houses. Goes through a main road like Michigan, and then 4th Street goes through Howard University, where there's no parking. Older residents here, younger residents could lose valuable parking spaces as these homes don't all have their own parking, off-street parking. And I can't reiterate enough how bad an idea bringing the bus in here will be. And that's my testimony. I wasn't prepared, but I just got the information to call in. So
no, thank you so much.
I'm hoping there's. You're welcome. Thank you.
And I believe we had another caller that joined on. If you want to provide testimony, you can press *5 to raise your hand, and we'll let you know when you can speak. For those remaining on the call, there will be no further testimony. We have a raised hand, so we're going to go to caller 0521. Press *6 to unmute yourself and provide your testimony.
Hello, my name is Renee Perez. I'm a resident of Bloomingdale. I live at 130 Bryant.
Do not provide your address, ma'am. Do not provide your address, just your neighborhood.
Okay. As far as testimony, I'm not sure what folks have covered so far, but some of the big risks and impacts that the neighborhood across the board is concerned about excessive weight and structural damage that has already been done to several historic properties, which is well documented from the DC Water Tunnel project. Traffic congestion. As we see it now, there really is no way that two buses could run along First Street without causing further traffic or incident or danger for pedestrians and bike riders. Adverse impact to parking, which is already very limited and going to be worse with McMillan. Accessible access to Reservoir District and Historic District preservation. Those are all concerns from myself, but several other citizens.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I did see we had 2 additional callers, and before you raise your hand, just a reminder, please do not provide your addresses or emails. So if there's anyone else that just joined in who wishes to provide testimony, press *5. Anyone that joined the call, press *5 if you wish to provide testimony. I just had a caller that's joined in, 3374. Do you wish to provide testimony?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, just let us know your name, first and last name. Do not provide us with any personal information, such as address or email. Just tell us your neighborhood.
Sure. My name's Ashraf Brethi, and I'm in Bloomingdale, and I'm calling in on behalf of both myself and my wife, Catherine.
Go ahead.
I'm calling to oppose the planned Route C55 down First Street, northwest, for a multitude of reasons. First, there are literally cracks in the street outside my house on First Street due to what I understand is continued movement of the ground after the water tunnel project. Buses driving along that route are likely to exacerbate any issues and causing potential structural damage to my house. I know my neighbors' houses and retaining walls have already had cracks from all this ground movement, and it doesn't make any sense to me to put heavy vehicles like buses on a narrow street like that. Second, it would ruin the character of the neighborhood. It is a narrow residential street where people walk their kids, their dogs, etc. It has a very long line of old trees, creating a tree tunnel under which buses would not be able to fit without having to chop back a bunch of their branches. And wherever any stops were included, you would have to chop back the trees entirely. Otherwise, the buses would, or at least big chunks of them, to be able to fit buses alongside the curb. Parking is also another major issue in this neighborhood. We already have a lack of parking for a lot of folks who don't have rear parking spaces, and for any guests or vendors or anyone else kind of coming through during the day, and especially bad in the evening. And so any removable parking spaces down this residential area of Bloomingdale would be very, very detrimental, particularly to those who can't afford a house with its own parking spaces. In addition to all this, I think there's a real thing of noise and or particulate pollution in a narrow street versus on a main artery, which is more airflow and the ability to spread any kind of pollutants, be they noise or particulates from tires, etc. And I think overall, it's very clear to me and a lot of my neighbors that North Capitol Street is already a major artery that can support bus traffic. It already does, and it's a block away. it makes no sense to me or to many other folks here that you kind of ruin the character of this neighborhood instead of running the buses down a main artery, which is just a block away. So I would appeal to WMATA to consider that alternative, and I thank you for giving me the time to speak.
Great, thank you. So anyone else that wishes to provide testimony, as a reminder, you can press up. So we have call, nope. (9011), you've already provided testimony. Ms. Perez, you can't provide testimony again. So I have caller ending in 8749. Press *6 to unmute yourself.
Okay, caller 8749, you can go ahead and begin. You have 3 minutes. Again, caller with the phone number ending in 8749. If you want to provide testimony, now is your chance. Otherwise, we're going to move on.
Okay, I wasn't aware that my actual phone was on mute. Sorry about that. So Clarence Labor, long-time resident of the Bloomingdale end, as well as the LaJoy Park area, Howard University graduate. And while it's a rhetorical question, I wanted to find out is if Howard University was aware that this bus route would now affect, the change of the bus route affect Howard University students not having access to the outbound bus that they're used to have or used to be in front of the dorms and have access to them. And now they'll have to perhaps walk 2 to 3 blocks to get an outbound bus. Another rhetorical question per se is that the police districts, you'll be having a bus in the immediate intersection of Northeast and Northwest, the 3rd District and the 5th District. And I know firsthand of the quagmire that causes when there's an incident from a close by district. I know buses go through different districts all the time, but I know that even North Capitol causes an issue with the 3rd District and the 5th District. And I've had firsthand experience with the operator saying, well, whose responsibility is it? And it goes on for 2, 3, 5 minutes and without a police response. I can beat to death all of the other issues with the road, the cracks, the sinkhole at First and V and all that. But overall, I don't think that there's a lack, or there was a lack of transparency where this conversation has been going on for months, close to a year, and some of us are just now finding out about it. We find out about so many other things, and it's almost as if this was going to be backdoored and slipped, and now we're having to fight this. And we have, leaders saying, hey, we're hearing the same thing over and over and over. And yes, you're hearing the same thing over and over because we never had a chance or an open forum to voice, and we don't have a forum where everyone can see what everyone is saying, so we don't repeat ourselves. So we are repeating ourselves because we are just being made aware of this. And so I hope that maybe we can have a more extended conversation about this, and an open and fair decision can be made with regards to the neighborhood. And lastly, I have not seen anything that says why do we need a change of this historical bus route, the G2. I've not seen that. And it would be nice to see why there's a need to change that. Thank you.
Mr. Clarence, can you repeat your last name one more time?
Labor, L-A-B-O-R, like work.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
We have caller 2476. You can press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yes, please provide us your first and
Hi,
last name.
Sure. This is Amy Melrose, and I'm in Ward 1 in Adams Morgan. And I attended the discovery session last week, and I was able to speak with a bunch of people in person and get a lot of answers to some of the questions that I had. But I still have a couple of concerns and kind of thoughts that I wanted to share verbally since I didn't present at that meeting. And a couple of them are like regarding efficiency, like the S2 and the S9 right now. I heard that I don't know the new bus numbers that you're going to change them to, so I'm just going to refer to them as I know them. But the that one of them will end at Franklin Square, I believe, and one will be extended. And I wanted to give feedback that right now the S9 that goes to Franklin Square drops on K Street on the opposite side of the park from the metro. And like, for instance, I was recovering from an ankle injury and I had to walk across the park to get to the McPherson Square Metro so I could get out to Virginia. And it was hot outside and I had bags and it's like it's a pretty big park. So I was hoping that the bus could loop around to where it used to go, to like I Street, like to drop off at the park. And then if it needs to dock to wait, that it could then loop back around and wait on K Street where it now stops as the end of the line so that it connects to the McPherson Square Metro. Because right now I think it's doing a disservice by not going all the way to the metro. So since it's turning around anyway at the park to go back northbound, like whatever line is going to be doing that, if it can go all the way to McPherson Square Metro, that's one suggestion or request I would have. And so that you just cross the street to get on at 14th and I Street. I think it's I Street. Yeah. So the other concern I have is about the circulator route, the McPherson Woodley Park route, which I use regularly, being discontinued in 2025 due to the budget cuts from the mayor's office. And if that happens, then the route that connects Woodley Park through Adams Morgan to Columbia Heights is going to be removed. And I know that the new route from the Better Bus is going to do a better job connecting like Adams Morgan, Mount Pleasant kind of area to Cleveland Park, but my preference would be that there's still a connecting line that goes from Woodley Park across to Adams Morgan, and ideally at least across from 18th and Columbia to the Woodley Park Metro. And I was told that the buses from the Metro bus are often too long to make that tight turn that the circulator bus turns around in Woodley Park. And that's why they dock on the other side of the bridge. But if it's possible to maybe acquire some of those circulator buses and make them into Metro buses, or to get some shorter buses to make that turn, it's just like those 90-line buses that don't go all the way to the Metro. It would be really wonderful if at least those could extend to the Metro, even if it doesn't connect Woodley Park to Columbia Heights. I mean, it is walkable from 18th and Columbia to 16th and Columbia, or, a little bit further. But I mean, I'm sad to lose that route because that circulator route is the one that connects Woodley Park to the green line in Columbia Heights and then down to the blue and orange line and the silver line. So it connects me to all of the lines that I need, no matter where I'm going, to like Northern Maryland, to Virginia, all of the different train lines. And so that if that route disappears, which I know you guys weren't aware of when you proposed all of this, but that's something I hope you'll take into account, if that bus route and all of the circulator bus routes, which I think are wonderful. I'm really going to be very sad if they go. I know that's not exactly your department. And then the one other thing, if I have time, is...
Yeah, you're just about out of time. If you could wrap up.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I had one more. Oh, yeah, the 4243, that they're not going to the Kennedy Center anymore. I go to the Kennedy Center pretty regularly. I've really enjoyed that bus route. I think it needs some rerouting, that if it could have a shorter route from where it goes from like Farragut, if it could just go across K Street and then down like New Hampshire instead, that would be great. I don't want to have to change to the D12 or whatever that new route is. I don't want it to change buses, but I think it could use a reroute. But if some of those buses, even if like one of the lines goes to Kennedy Center, it would be nice to still have a Kennedy Center option, even if it wasn't every line that went there. I'm going to be, that's a long route, but it does get me there for a very affordable rate compared to like Uber, which doesn't make it doable for me to go to the Kennedy Center regularly. So I would really like a Kennedy Center route that would connect easily with Connecticut Avenue at least, or to make sure that there is an option to easily get to the Kennedy Center, or that it connects to the Foggy Bottom, shuttle there, that there's a way to get to the Kennedy Center. Those are all my thoughts, and I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Melrose. And I know we had one or two other callers, so if you're on the call and you wish to provide testimony, please press *5. Yes, we have about 20 minutes. If anyone else, while they're on the call, hear silence because that means no one else is providing testimony. But if you do wish to provide testimony, please press *5. Okay, so we'll be on standby to see if anybody else calls in, and we'll be wrapping up this virtual hearing in about 20 minutes. So just stand by. We'll see if we get any other comments. Thank you. 11. You're just joining. If you wish to provide testimony, this is your moment to do so. Just do not provide us your address or email. If you wish to do so, you can just provide us your first and last name and proceed with your testimony.
Eric Skinner.
You can go ahead, Mr. Skinner.
Yeah, I'm voting against the bus route on First Street for a couple of blocks. It's already congested. The mayor already added those stupid bike lanes and those white posts at the end of the block. There's nowhere to park. There's nowhere for the cars when Uber stops in the middle of the street. You have to either wait or you have to go on the other lane, and that causes an accident. And then they want to charge you for the accident that they caused because they put all this extra stuff up in one lane streets, which is ridiculous. You have an overflux of people in the neighborhoods already with the added apartments. They added this, they added that, and now they're going to add a bus route to us. It's ridiculous.
Okay, thank you for your testimony, Mr. Skinner.
All right.
I did see another caller that just joined, and I did not catch the last 4 digits of your number. But if you wish to provide testimony, please press *5. Okay, 0921. If you can press *6, and you can go ahead with your testimony, provide us your first and last name.
You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Yolanda Hawthorne. I live at 60 W Street Northwest for the past 2 decades. I'm totally against the bus route on First Street for various reasons. I'll turn in a written testimony if needed. Sorry, but I'm driving to get this testimonial in. And if you have any questions, you can reach me at 202-262.
Please don't provide any personal information. This is on the internet.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. You just need my name then, right, Shalonda?
Yes, go ahead, proceed.
I'm sorry, I'm driving. I didn't hear you. What did you say?
You can proceed.
No, I'm calling in because I'm totally against the bus route.
Understood. Thank you for your testimony. And it's Ms. Hawthorne?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hawthorne.
Thank you. Bye.
John, anything else?
Just a reminder that comments are can also be submitted in written form, either at wamata.com/betterbus, where you can write down your comment or use some of the virtual options, or upload a pre-prepared document, or you can send it to us in the mail. Again, we need to receive all these comments by the 15th of July at 5 p.m.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone who hung out with us on the phone and on the Teams call. We're going to wrap this up. If we do have one final hearing this Wednesday in Suitland, you can find information on that at wamata.com/betterbus. Again, thank you for your time. Have a great evening. ASLs, thank you so much for your time.